Hey, what's up? Silas here from Rantathon. I'm just going to read this blog post that I had. It was based off of this this tweet that Stefan Molyneux put out that was just it was hilarious. Well, I mean, it kind of got under the radar. I saw the tweet some time back, and then I saw that it was picked up by the Daily Mail. I've been too focused, I think, on the Project Veritas thing, taking down the CNN and New York Times saying that that whole 17 agencies thing was wrong about the Russia thing. It was actually only three agencies, and a quote from I think somebody who was the former national security director or something. I should do these better. I should actually get these names and things like that up. But anyway, so I was more distracted in those things with actual policies, just regular life. And then I saw the Daily Mail article, which I'll have links to that. But the Daily Mail article calling Stefan Molyneux an alt-right YouTuber and a quote-unquote philosopher. So alt-right YouTuber, they're like, yes, that's sure, we're 100% on this, but philosopher, we're not sure, when he's running the biggest philosophy show online. Anyway, so I just had this role playing in mind on the topic of birth control because this really triggered a bunch of people. Okay, someone comes in and they say birth control should be free, and then to that I say no, abstinence is free. Choosing to not have sex, that's free. Anyone can do that. So you're making the claim that someone should not pay for their own birth control. The person comes back and says, how are you going to convince people that have kids now to use abstinence? Birth control is cheaper than welfare payments for 18 years. And then to me, I say, sure, but welfare in that situation that you're talking about is not healthcare. Single parenthood rates are lower in countries with no welfare and less access to birth control. Also, the people that you say are incapable of using free abstinence will somehow be calculating enough to use the free birth control. They won't think of the amount of money they can get for having a child and just go ahead and do it. And the person will say, well, it's not like they have kids by themselves. This is an attack on women's health. Men just want to shirk responsibilities as usual. And to that I say, so if a man wants to pay and keep the child, they should have a say in that? And the person will say, no, 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 no. Her body, her choice, except in choosing whether to obtain, purchase, and use birth control. And then, except after pregnancy. Back then, it's entirely back to her choice. So there's a lot of mental gymnastics in this, and that was just a general. I thought of this role play just from remembering different conversations, and then went further to actually think of other arguments to try to break down and understand this image macro with the how to even. I've been using that a lot lately, but I'm trying to understand this. I want to go past just the base reactions and actually try to understand what's behind this and break down this argument and give you some other points and things like that. So another one point that comes up is saying birth control should be increased so we can reduce the number of abortions, which is something I'm not against. I'm definitely, the fewer abortions had, the better it is to me. But in this case, it's out of context when it comes to this post. Because as you see, he's talking about birth control is not healthcare. Specifically, birth control. He's not talking about the pill, that was not mentioned, but most of the people coming to that site, most of the people triggered by this, most of the people arguing against this, will quickly jump to the birth control pill. They'll quickly frame it in a state of a women's health issue and say, yes, this is the pill. But in that case, I do understand, if it's the pill that actually has other medical uses, the actual pill itself can actually deal with other medical conditions besides controlling the process of giving birth. That's admitted. I'm not saying it doesn't do that. But if I go to the store and I buy a condom and I go and use it for, let's say, a water balloon fight or some paint fight or some other thing besides sexual intercourse, at that point it is not considered a birth control option. So the pill in and of itself is not birth control. It is only considered birth control when it is being used to control birth. So again, a pill is just a pill. When it's used to control the process of getting pregnant, then it is a birth control pill. Now, The birth control pill itself, the process itself of getting pregnant, I wouldn't consider that the same as a medical condition. I wouldn't consider it the same as getting cancer or breaking a leg. In most situations, majority of the situations, especially in places where people are using Twitter enough to be triggered by this, those people are living in areas where pregnancies, most of them are willing that two people decided to have intercourse, decided to participate in the action that's its main purpose. Again, main purpose of intercourse is reproduction. Does that mean every time you have intercourse, it results in reproduction? Does it mean every time you have intercourse, the main goal of that intercourse is reproduction? Does it mean every time you want to reproduce and have intercourse, you will get pregnant? But most of the times when people do engage in intercourse in these countries, in these locations where this is an issue, it is by choice. So it's not the same as breaking your leg. It's not just an accident. It's not just a condition that happened. It's not something that you just fall into. So I don't consider it the same as a medical condition. Now, if you're using that pill to address other medical conditions, I think one of the earliest conditions people used to tell me, this was back in high school, and this was quite a long time ago. I'm really old right now. But this was like in the 90s. In like the late 90s, people were taking the pill and saying that it helped with skin, with like acne and things like that. I mean, thinking about it now, it's really ridiculous. Like, you're going to stop your entire biological reproductive process so you can have acne, and then now you also add, why do you want to seem like you have less acne? And in most cases, it's normally an indication of beauty and attractiveness and health, which normally attracts people to you to have more intercourse because it shows that you're more fertile and fit to have children. So it's a really strange situation when you have this pill that's stopping your ability to have children, yet displaying more health to have kids, and these mixed signals that are going on both in the exterior sense and also in the interior sense, where you physically are producing whatever hormones and chemicals balances that create you to look healthier, yet your actual process of having that kid is not. Anyway, so that's a whole other thing. Okay, back to this post. So another thing they say is this should be something that insurances cover. Should be something that, even if it's not directly funded by the government, it should be something required by laws. But I don't think so. I think insurance companies should cover what they want. They should decide, one company should be like, I'm just going to cover broken bones. And then if you happen to work in a field where bones are broken a lot, that's the insurance company you'll go to. They'll specialize in that, and if that's a working thing, they'll get it. There's tons of fields. There's multiple fields that focus just on women. If you have a situation where people are like, this is going to be the best company that if you want to have kids, if you want to get pregnant in the future, you join this company. You join this insurance. You get this insurance package, and then you go in there, and then if you get pregnant, you get the best perks from this. Another company will say, we don't cover that at all. If you never want to get pregnant, you have to pay a really low monthly, like paying like $50 a month, and we'll cover all your basic non-pregnancy needs. But if you do get pregnant, all of a sudden it's going to shoot up. There's going to be people who decide this is the perfect one for me, because there are women out there who are sure they don't want to have kids. There's people out there who can't have kids. I mean, not just the males of the population, but there's women out there who can't have kids. Then there could be women who get to an age where they've already had enough kids, and then they decide, okay, I'm going to go in and get my tubes tied, or my husband's going to get a vasectomy. And at that point, they can say, okay, now I'm going to switch from the insurance package that covers pregnancies and go to one that doesn't. And this is how the markets work. I think there can be better packages and better ideas put forward if you have more access, more freedom in this situation. Okay, so the next one is this analogy I was thinking. What else do people consider should be subsidized by other people? So this is either by the law, this should be offered, or this should be provided for somebody, or this should be provided by taxing a certain group of people and shifting that money, that wealth transfer, to these other people. If somebody just bought a house and they couldn't take care of it, you wouldn't say, oh, that's that's something that they should be subsidized. Even though, like, the unfortunate thing I'm thinking about here, I think something happened the other day. I was talking to a friend, and he said something that sounded absurd, and then I was like, oh, no, no, people are actually doing that now. I think it was asking consent about every single thing, like picking up your kid, which I'm kind of undecided on this, but families would decide, I'm going to ask my child every time I pick them up. So this is a thing you think, like, there probably is some kind of government program saying we should subsidize people who take on homes that they can't buy. Actually, isn't the bailout kind of a similar thing to that? Anyway, so let's take this further on a situation of, let's say somebody chooses to enter a competition, runs in this competition, practices for it, tries the hardest, and then wins a horse at the end of it. They take this horse home and they can't feed the horse, they can't house the horse, they can't take care of the health of the medical bills that the horse needs. Is it fair for this person to expect somebody else to subsidize that decision and that horse and keep the horse at the same time? Now, this is a little tougher to think of because this is a situation with kids now. Now, when you put the responsibility of the kids on the parents, you have a situation where you already have a country where there's a lot of people who do have single parent households. So if you start rolling back these things, what do you do now? In the situation of the horse, I think people can comfortably understand that, yes, if this person couldn't afford the horse, and especially in a place like America, if you mistreat dogs, if you mistreat cats, if you mistreat your pets and animals, it almost seems like these people care more about that than they do about people who do mistreat their kids. And I want to also say that that whole idea of people in Kenya do have fewer kids, I mean, out of wedlock or in single parent childhoods, yes, I think that's because a lack of welfare and they take on the responsibility of having those kids. But I'm also unsure about the problems that they have now once they keep the kids, once they have the kids. There's also a high level of hitting those kids. So there's good and bad in both situations. Okay, so I just want to close this out now. So there's a law of unintended consequences, which work in a combination of when you fund something, you tend to get more of it. And not even just fund it, because in the West, it's a point where single parenthood is not just encouraged and funded and supplied with and subsidized by welfare and wealth transfers, but it's actually glorified in some situations where people are like, yes, it's an amazing, empowering thing to be a single parent. No, it's a challenging thing. It's a tough thing. And if you happen to do it and be good at it, that's awesome. But this whole idea that it's something to strive for, which unfortunately there are people out there who are like, yes, this is actually a plan that's in there. It's not like something that just happens, an accident, or it's a case that, okay, this is something that I haven't planned for as much, or it's just something that randomly happens. Like I said, I'm not even quite sure these things can randomly happen in this situation. I think it's not as avoidable in most people's minds as it should be. For example, people don't think, oh, I should get in an accident so I can get in an accident, break my leg, go to rehab, come out of that, and then run a marathon. When you see somebody do something like that, they get the accord. It's like, wow, that's amazing. That's amazing that person did that. And they were once in a wheelchair, and then now a year later, they're running a marathon. You say, yes, that's amazing. And they should get the accolades for it. But it doesn't get to the point where people suggest you go out there and break your leg. People don't suggest that you should avoid all things possible to breaking your leg because this person happened to go through that process and become a marathon runner. So the problem with the West, I see, is someone may wrongly be in a situation where they think the child benefits from more resources than human interactions from two or more caring adults. And that's key, caring adults. So in this situation, if you want to throw in two males, two females, or whatever, no, I think the more caring adults around the person, be they biological, be they adopted, the better for the kid. So with this mistaken assumption, it would be logical for most people to take steps to not have the biological father present. If it's a situation where you really think money is better than a hug, than someone to listen to, than somebody to be present, than someone to learn from, then many do this. Many of those kind of people Many of the people we're talking about who do have single parent childhood situations, it's not like they were starving. It's not like they didn't have the ability to decide, okay, I can go to the store and I can buy these clothes, or I can buy this purse, or I can buy the food, or I can buy this, or I can save a little money here and purchase some birth control. They still have this ability. They still make these choices on a day-to-day basis. If you want to say that these people are incapable of those decisions, then what else should they be incapable of? What else, what other considerations should you take away? Should they be allowed to vote? Should they be allowed to make decisions in their life if they can't just make a basic decision on who and when to create another life? There's going to be links to the blog post in the low bar, and in that post you're going to find a video by Stefan Molyneux titled "The Truth About Welfare, Past, Present, and Future." In that video he talks about the concept of the welfare cliff. So to paraphrase or summarize what it is, you should watch the entire video. It's an excellent presentation. But he's just talking about how if you're a young person, a young female, who's making about $20,000 a year, you may be in your early 20s and you kind of look around and you say, okay, I might not be able to make as much money in the future. You're somewhat attractive, and then you see that, hey, there's people who are hitting on me, there's all these males out here. But at the same point, I do understand if I do have kids, through the welfare, I'll be able to work less, if at all, and get $30,000 a year. Then you have that first kid, you start working fewer hours, and then get to the point where it's like, oh wait, if I have one more kid, I can get another 10,000 or another 15,000 a year. Then you have that kid, and then you're like, oh, if I have a third kid, I can have another $15,000 a year. And with this welfare cliff situation, it gets to the point where if this lady decided to get off of welfare, if this female decided to get off of welfare, she would have to get back in the workforce, work enough hours, or provide enough skills to earn what somebody would have to make about $60,000 or even further than that a year post-taxes. So when you have this situation where somebody's quality of life, level of life is being subsidized by the state, by the government, by wealth transfers, they're trapped in that situation. And not entirely trapped, because this is the thing I'm trying to wonder. There's a video about slavery. Can you choose to enter slavery? Can you sell yourself into slavery? If she chose to enter this, is she considered a slave? Are people today more enslaved because more people rely on government subsidies and people outside in the world, outside of themselves? More people are not as self-reliant as they were in the past. Because you could argue that you went to a slave plantation, closed it off, removed all the slave owners. Could those slaves still live in that area for a year? I would say yes. They could probably still take care of the land. They know how to take care of themselves, and they could probably still survive in that area for even up to a year or more. Now, if you closed off a major city in the United States for about a month, would the people in that city still be able to survive? And in most cases, no. In most cases, you have your average person in that city very reliant on other people and other things. Now, it's not necessarily bad to be reliant on other people. I think we all are. I think we all benefit from that. And which is some of the points that I'm making in this, is the reliance is not the problem that I'm talking about. Being in need of aid of other people is not the problem. The problem is when there's a wealth transfer. The problem is when there's a lack of choice in this situation. The problem is when force is enacted to run these programs, when people aren't given the responsibility and the decision-making process of this. That's where the problem comes from. And I think people should be more aware of this, and hope you like the video. Like, share, and subscribe. Lost some steam at the end there. But yeah, no, that blog post, the tweet, check out the tweet. I don't know if you guys have arguments besides this. Let me know what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. And that's it for now. Bye.